A deck can be a thing of beauty, somewhere great for entertaining or relaxing all year round, or creating a beautiful entrance to the front of your place. But if it's not built correctly, it can quickly turn into a horror show. Like that. And this deck is definitely one of those horror shows. You can see straight away that these posts are just sitting on the decking boards instead of being tied back into the subfloor frame or even run down into the ground to give it strength going this way. The next thing I notice is the decking boards. They're upside down, the reeded side's up, which means that water just sits in the reed and eventually rots the board out like this. But also, because they're upside down, there's no airflow between the joist and the board, which means that your joists rot out, and then the nails have nothing to hold on to, and you end up with bounce like this. This is an absolute disaster. The whole thing needs to come up, and we need to start again. That was easy. Now, before you take a saw to your old deck, check you know where any of the surfaces are. In this case, there's a gas pipe. Jeez, have a look at the spider webs. There wasn't much holding this together. The other reason this deck had so much bounce is because they've only used 70x45 to span this distance, which isn't enough. We need to use deeper joists. That way, we'll be nice and strong. Whenever you've got a heap of rubbish to get rid of, it's a good idea to get a skip. That way, it doesn't become landfill. The bin goes back to the yard, everything gets sorted, and it all gets recycled. All right, the demo's done, so we're on to the build. Now, when it comes to timber sizes, it's all dependent on your situation and your layout. But for us, we're using some 190x45 treated pine. I've got this as a whaling plate going up against the existing house. We're going to be using M12 bolts going through the existing bearer, which will transfer the load down onto the piers. Then my bearers are going to run off that to the external piers. Because I've butted the bearers up against the whaling plate, obviously the weight is going down, so we need something to support it, so we're not just relying on our nails that are skewered into the timber. For that, I'm putting on these saddles. Now, you can nail them on, but I've decided to be a little bit lazy and I'm using the clout gun. But the one thing you need to remember is make sure that you get hardened nails. All right, the bearers are in place and I'm ready to put the joists on. I'm going to be putting these in between the bearers. Now, usually when you see joists, you do see them sitting on top of bearers. But if we did that, we're going to end up higher than the existing floor level. Now, you might think, well, why don't you just drop your bearers? Well, we have existing piers here, so we wanted to make life easy for ourselves. We've gone on top, we're keeping that level, joists go in between, put some more saddles on, and we're ready to go. And unlike the old deck, we're using the correct timber sizes for our joists. In this case, 90x45s. What's a deck without a pergola? Well, it's just a deck. So I am putting a pergola up, but to make life easier for myself, I'm painting the posts and beams first. I need to get my pergola posts in before I start laying my decking boards. That way, I can check out around them. Now, if you remember earlier, the old posts, they were just sitting on top of the deck, and that is not the correct way to put them in. In this case, I'm checking mine into the subfloor. Because I've got the existing house there, it gives it strength once everything's put together. If you don't have the structure to join to and it's freestanding, you'll be digging them into the ground. Now, because this post is carrying the roof weight and I don't have a bearer to connect to, only a joist, I'm just running it down to a pad in the ground. The skeleton is complete and it looks a lot better than the one that used to be here. Now we just need to dress it up and turn it into a deck. That's coming up.